All right, let's just jump right into today's explainer. The focus today is temptation. We're unpacking this incredible sci-fi narrative about a virtually indestructible being named Xenia, her trip to the planet Terpa, and, man, the devastating consequences of acting on unchecked grief. It's a deep dive into the absolute darkest corners of emotion, human or otherwise.
So what happens when the overwhelming desire for justice actually becomes the ultimate evil? It's a massive question, right? And it perfectly frames the tragic journey of Xenia. She just wants to do the right thing. But, as we're going to see, the line between righteous justice and absolute evil is shockingly thin, and crossing it, way easier than you'd think.
Okay, Part 1. A Tragic Beginning. The planet Terpa and the city of Null. Just look at the insane contrast on this planet. On one hand, you've got the city of Nakroil. It's this pristine, geometric utopia. Massive, perfectly clean cubes and pyramids. But then, right outside the city limits, nothing. Literally a dead, barren wasteland. According to scans by Xenia's brother, Atix, this whole area was just obliterated by a mysterious thermal explosion about a century ago. Wiped out all the ancient forests and left the soil completely dead.
Now, while she's exploring Niall, Xenia falls hard for a local scientist named Nara, and Nara's team is desperately trying to crack time travel. Artix warns them like, hey, your tech is primitive and wildly unstable, but they push forward anyway. And tragedy strikes. The time pod completely malfunctions and bursts into flames. Nara dives in to try and save it, essentially sacrificing herself right in front of Xenia. Driven completely mad by heartbreak, Xenia completely tunes out Artix's warnings about the catastrophic dangers of messing with history.
Nara actually spoke these exact words to Xenia right before she died. She truly believed her starving people needed to go back in time to destroy whatever evil caused that massive explosion a century ago. And this desperate plea, this is the ultimate temptation for Xenia. Believing she's basically indestructible, she decides, you know what? I am going to use the time pod. I'll go back and destroy the evil for them.
Moving on to Section 2, the time travel paradox, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Let's map out this predestination paradox, because it gets wild. So at year 200, Nara dies. Xenia then jumps back 2 whole centuries to year 0, back when that lush ancient forest was actually still thriving, long before the great explosion at year 100. Her goal is super straightforward. Find the evil that eventually ruins the planet, wipe it out, and save Nara's future.
Section 3. Creating the catastrophe. Unleashing wrath.
Well, the moment Xenia arrives in the ancient forest, she sees something horrifying. She finds these adults locking a filthy, terrified child inside a tiny wooden box. I mean, it triggers something deep and primal inside her. She sees this as the ultimate unforgivable cruelty. Convinced she's found the root of the evil that Nara warned her about, Xenia's desire to protect the innocent morphs into something terrifying. She doesn't just want to stop these people, she wants to make them pay.
Notice how this escalates. Xenia doesn't even try to talk it out or understand the context. She is 100% convinced these adults are beyond reason and only understand violence. So she zips through the forest at lightning speed, finding more and more groups of adults with these cages, and her rage just builds and builds. Finally, in a state of absolute blinding fury, she raises her arms, closes her eyes, and just howls.
And that blinding flash of light she releases? Yeah, that was the mysterious thermal explosion. When Xenia finally opens her tear-filled eyes, the lush forest is just gone. It's a dead desert. The staggering twist of this explainer is that Xenia realizes to her absolute horror that she is the apocalyptic event she traveled back in time to prevent. She vaporized the adults, leaving only the traumatized children who would grow up terrified of the forest, ultimately building that geometric city of Nahol. It's a tragic, perfect closed loop.
Which brings us to Section 4, the face of temptation, meeting Zahn.
Right in the middle of this fresh, smoking desolation that she just created, this dark figure appears out of nowhere. This is Zakon. He is literally the physical manifestation of evil in this universe. But here's the kicker. He isn't some ugly monster. He has these shockingly beautiful, soothing, bright blue eyes, and he shows up at this exact moment to capitalize on Xenia when she is at her most vulnerable and her most destructive.
And this perfectly redefines our core theme of temptation.
Usually we think of temptation as, greed, lust, or wealth, but Zahn isn't offering her a pile of gold. He's offering her the ecstasy of righteous killing. He's tempting her with the incredibly seductive idea that her massive, horrific violence was completely justified because it was aimed at quote-unquote evil.
He literally tells her she's fulfilling her destiny. Then he drops a completely sickening truth bomb. He orchestrated the whole thing. He forced those adults to lock the children in cages entirely as bait. It was a centuries-long, incredibly calculated setup designed specifically to lure Xenia there and trigger her planet-destroying wrath. Just listen to the incredibly manipulative language he uses. He tells her, do not deny to yourself the ecstasy you felt when you ripped the limbs from those evil ones. He wants her to team up with him, to scour the entire universe, finding anything they decide is evil and just obliterating it. He's basically begging her to revel in that godlike thrill of being judge, jury, and executioner.
Section 5. Resisting the Darkness, a Battle of Wills.
So Xenia realizes that Xon's power actually comes from absorbing the mental energy of entire planets. He needs her to embrace the killing so her mind just completely opens up to his control. And the most terrifying part? It almost works. For a heart-stopping second, Xenia actually remembers the rush of her past violence, that thrill of power rushing right down her spine. Looking into those beautiful blue eyes, she actually whispers yes to his offer.
But right at the edge of the abyss, she catches herself. She throws up this massive mental block, violently shoving his will out of her head. She even grabs onto his mind and starts crushing it, forcing Ascorn to his knees. But then it hits her. She has this huge epiphany. Every single time she focuses her energy on destroying another creature, even a literal embodiment of evil like Ascorn, she is basically holding the front door open for evil to enter her own soul.
Realizing he's losing, Zahn totally flips his script and literally begs Xenia to destroy him. He knows that one final, concentrated act of sheer hatred from her is all he needs to permanently hijack her soul. But Xenia has just learned an incredibly painful lesson about restraint. She flat out refuses to destroy him. And because he's totally denied the violent energy he feeds on, Zahn is forced to just vanish. Fade into nothingness.
Section 6. The Illusion of Good, a Painful Lesson.
Eventually, her brother Artix, who somehow managed to track her through the time stream, shows up. He looks around at the absolute ruin and the traumatized kids left behind, and he lays down a harsh truth. You cannot just erase tragedy from history. The Turpin people needed to face their own fears and learn from their dark past naturally in order to grow. You can't just surgically alter time to fix things. Artix does forgive Xenia because she finally learned her lesson about playing God, but man, the emotional toll of that education is just immeasurable. Later, safely back on their ship, Xenia is just deeply reflecting on how terrifying that encounter was. She asks, how are you supposed to know what's good and what's bad when they can both look so much like the other? It's a profound thought. Evil doesn't always show up looking like a scary monster, right? Sometimes it looks exactly like righteous justice. It looks exactly like the right thing to do.
So I want to leave you with this really provocative thought from today's explainer. If you had the absolute power to eradicate wrongdoers, when you were 100% certain you were on the side of justice, could you pull back? Could you resist that temptation? Because as Xenia learned the hard way, resisting the urge for righteous wrath might literally be the hardest lesson of all. Thanks for diving into this with me, and definitely keep questioning what you think you know.